Have you seen this video?
And I was hooked from that moment.
Harry
From
Potter.
that
Say that
moment.
again. Hold on. Say that again.
Isaiah Saldivar recently interviewed Emmanuel Campana, and his testimony is super relevant to the things I talk about here about what movies your kids are watching and how that is spiritually impactful on their life, right? So I wanted to show a couple clips here from that interview, and then I wanted to talk about some of the things that they brought up. So both Isaiah and Emmanuel have parts of their testimony that say that, where they watched certain movies and certain things allowed darkness to enter in, allowed demonic activity into the life, opened the door to things. And in Emmanuel's case, he was in witchcraft, okay? And he said, when processing it before the Lord showed him, look, this all entered in when your dad, who was a pastor but was a really bad dude, okay? So you can listen to his testimony if you want, but abuse and the whole everything, okay? His dad brings home Harry Potter, and he said, the second I saw Harry Potter, I was just enthralled and completely captivated. I wanted to be a wizard just like Harry, the whole thing. And how that led to an open door for all that wizardry stuff. The dude wanted to be a wizard, okay?
My dad came home with a VHR. It said it right there, Flash Day, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. I plugged that bad boy in, and I was hooked from that moment. I wanted to be a wizard like Harry, and I put my little sister on. We got every movie after that. We watched the whole entire series. Man, I think we watched that movie about 3 times a day. I'm not gonna lie to you.
That's
In the beginning, when we
crazy.
first got it, we used to watch it like 3 times a day. And I was hooked. Like, I knew it word for word. You put the movie on, I could literally like reenact it, and word for word. And I wanted to be a wizard just like Harry.
Just obsessed with all the darkness things, and how that led into multiple different shows and TV shows and movies about wizards and witches and magic and all that stuff. Halloween, he was really big into Halloween, sounded like. And he specifically cited the Disney Channel and all their wizard and witch shows during his formative years as a kid, right? And how by the time he was into middle school and high school, that was just this very strong desire of his. So he had been desensitized, which he says multiple times, he's been desensitized to the things of darkness.
That opened the door, and what it looked like entertainment wise and just growing up wise after Harry Potter was that Harry Potter also desensitized me. I mean, bro, I could really honestly tell you, and this would be true if I say it, that Harry Potter robbed me of a relationship with Jesus Christ.
And so when the opportunities arise to be included into these kind of things, he just jumped on it and went into it because that's what he wanted, right? That's what he had found alluring in these children's shows and stuff. And it's just a big testament to how important it is what we show and don't show our kids. And the other thing he talked about was horror movies. And even Isaiah had said the same thing, that just things came upon him. There was heaviness. There was demons are attached to these kind of things, right? And you don't want them in your life, and you don't want to give them a place in your life. And by participating in these horror movies, you are giving consent for them to, and whether you specifically say or not, spiritually, I mean, that's the law. Whether you view that, it's like the drunk driver. They always think that they're okay. I'm okay. I'm, an alcoholic. I function well at this. There's a law. You crossed the threshold. You broke the law. In the eyes of the law, you are drunk driving and you are against the law. And that's how it is spiritually. Spiritually, that is consent. Okay, watching these horror movies is consent to the demons associated with that, okay? To inviting them into your home, into your life, into your person. And you can't be like, well, I didn't say yes. You did, okay? You watched the horror movie, it was consent.
I will say after that, I just became hooked on horror movies. They're so terrible. And I would just go, man, these movies are terrible. Why do I like these so much? And it's demonic. And I realized too, is like I was opening all these doors. My morals started going downhill, lost all my convictions growing up from these movies. So it's a demon smorgasbord. It's a buffet for demons when you watch horror movies. You're letting them in. So you're like, well, I like horror movies. Well, you like inviting demons. That's what you like, because that's all horror movies are.
So these things are very important, and they're very important spiritually. And you got to teach your kids these things, right? And you, as a parent, need to guard your kids on these matters, right? So a lot of people don't think of it in that way. A lot of people think, oh, it's just entertainment, it's pretend, it's it's even if they believe in, say it's a movie about something more real, they believe in it, but it was fictional, it was made up, okay? So it doesn't matter, it does, okay? You're giving consent to these kind of things.
Harry Potter was that first open door. I can't tell you that I knew what a wizard was, what magic was, what wands were, what spells were, what grimoires were, and I can't tell you that I knew until Harry Potter came into my house. And it was my dad. You know, it was my own father. Like, your parents are supposed to protect you from these things. And I see a lot of Christians like it's just entertainment, and they got children, and that scares me as a dad myself. Like, that scares me, because at least I know from experience, like, I really got to protect my son. Like, this is not just entertainment.
You really got to be mindful of what you are watching and what your kids are watching, because quite frankly, your kids are going to watch everything that they get put before them, right? Unless you teach them otherwise. And as a parent, you need to be the one blocking things. We don't watch this in our house. We don't watch that in our house. You need to be approving of every movie that does come on your kids' that does go on the TV in front of your kids, okay? And if that looks like having only a small set of movies that's okay for your kids, then that's what it is. We have reviewers nowadays and stuff that can help. That's why I try to watch every new kids movie, okay? And tell you what's in it, especially call out the demonic stuff. But this is important. For you as an adult, you need to find a way to determine, very likely this movie is okay for my child. If you can't, there's so much garbage and darkness out there, you need to be under the assumption that it's not, okay? That's my personal view on it. But certainly don't be showing them horror and things like that. And there are many people who believe that stuff like the witches and the wizards and that kind of stuff in children's programming, especially the shows that focus all over it, right? That is the theme. The only reason you're watching is because that it's not, this character off on the side appeared and then was there for a minute and gone. Like, you walk into a gray area, right? People start going, well, when is it the same as like walking down the street and seeing the guy on drugs? I'll tell you what, going in this movie is all about Halloween, all about the witches and the wizards and all the spells and all the magic and all the... You are now in the drug house and participating, okay? There is no gray line. That was obvious, okay? So start weeding out the obvious ones, okay? And as the Lord leads, purge deeper, okay? But some of these things are very, very, very obvious, and there are a lot of people who just let their kids watch them, and it's not great for the kids, right?
The Craft was crazy, but even before that, actually Disney. Don't get me started with Disney. Wizards of Waverly Place, Twitches, Halloween Town High. Man, I think it was called something 13 something, where this boy, like, at his 13th birthday turns into like a merman. Like, it was so much witchcraft on Disney. Man, I was desensitized, bro. Like, you couldn't tell me this was wrong. Like, you could not. Because I was so like, this is what I fed myself. This is what my parents allowed me to watch.
So Emmanuel talks about how that was the open door that led him down a road of this deep involvement with witchcraft. And he'll talk about he was doing all this law of attraction and a lot of sexual stuff. And the devil gave him popularity as well, right? And connections. He name drops some... I don't even pay attention to the secular space, and I've heard of those names before, okay? They must have been pretty popular, some of them. And that was all just to further promote the evil, because the enemy was like, hey, look, I'm going to take your stuff. At a certain point, they call them spirit guides. They're just demons, okay? But people don't know. And so they call them spirit guides. And they're talking on the inside of their head, right? and telling them, hey, look, here's what you name your video, here's what you do the topic on, here's what, but like, hey, if you don't keep sharing this stuff about the demonic stuff, the new age stuff, the crystals this, and the manifest that, and the ritual spell whatever, that they're just gonna cut him off and take away his fame and that kind of stuff, and his income. That's income, of course, right? Because I guess he apparently was of some notable YouTube and social media degree, right, where he was getting paid pretty good for it. So I just wanted to come on and share clips from this and open people's eyes to, yeah, this is important. This is a big deal. Pay attention to what your kids are watching, right?
They're telling you it's witchcraft, and it's like, no, we're gonna watch it. It's cool. It's just entertainment. And it's like, man, no, this robbed me from a relationship with Jesus Christ.
And at one point in there, he says that the demons were telling him, hey, go buy these tarot cards. And he's like, I had no problem doing that, because in watching all of this wizard and witches and everything else shows, he had become desensitized to that. So he's like, oh yeah, tarot cards, those are in there. Yeah, okay, whatever. And he's like, my biggest thing with it was like, which pack do I choose? And he had just become so desensitized that it was like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, we'll buy this. And just started messing around. And for those who don't know, yes, those are demonic as well in origin. But he said when it came time when they said, hey, buy the Ouija board, which I never knew that was how you pronounced it and spelled it. I guess it's Ouija or something like that, but it's pronounced Ouija, okay? Anyway, this is something that they'll have on the stores at Walmart in the kids' toy board game aisle, okay? You don't mess with these. It's demonic in origin. Well, it's all demonic. It's more than an origin. It's straight up pure demonic on that one. But anyway, so the demons were telling him, hey, buy the Ouija board. And he's like, it clicked. It remembered. In my brain, Mama's like, you don't mess with no Ouija boards. They're demonic. See, he had been tricked into thinking that he was trying to do good things, okay? And he's like, oh man, that's how you get demons. Mama said, no Ouija board. And it sounded like maybe the first time that he gave some resistance. And he quickly caved and then had my experience, of course. But he's like, I wish Mom had told me about all the other stuff, because that would have clicked back. That would have came back in memory too. Mom said this is bad. Mom said that's bad.
They say buy the Ouija board. Isaiah, I'm doing all of this crazy stuff in my life, right? I'm doing sex rituals, just everything, right? I'm just wilding. That's where I drew the line. I looked at that board and I said, mama said, never play with Ouija board. I'm Dominican. My mama told me about this board.
As you're being led by 7 demons, they're telling you what to do. You're like, no, that's demonic.
Yeah, that's where I drew the line. That board is where I drew the line. But you see how crazy it is? Immediately, something from like the past when I was young, like my mom said, never play with a Ouija board, is demonic. Mom, if you would have told me all of this other stuff was demonic, I would have remembered that too. But she didn't. Instead, I got fed horror movies and Harry Potter and witchcraft shows and all this stuff.
I think a lot of times we as parents try to shelter our kids and be like, yes, don't mess with the enemy. But we never kind of reveal a little bit. Now, look, I'm not saying expose your kids to terribleness. And I'm certainly not saying go show your kids horror movies, okay? But if you say to your kids, don't watch bad movies, and they're like, oh, the definition of bad, the enemy can get in there and corrupt and then change. But if you say to your kids, look, we don't watch horror movies, and this is why we don't watch horror movies, and we don't watch movies with intense amounts of violence because of the same reasons, and we don't watch movies where everybody is just completely foul and swearing the whole time, and sexualized movies, and you have your list of things and you give them reasons. That means more to them than we don't watch bad movies, because here comes they're off of college or whatever, they are not around you, here comes up this movie, and it's sexualized, and they say, oh, I don't feel right about that, and their friend says, well, sex is part of nature, God's designed us to have sex, and okay, well, I guess it's okay. Their definition of bad had switched, had been they have been deceived in the moment. If all you told them is don't watch bad movies, and they're like, well, I guess it must not be a bad movie. But if you've explained to them, hey, this is why we don't watch those kind of movies, and these are the things that you need to watch out for, that's not getting reasoned and tricked and pulled away quite so easily, right? That's coming back to their remembrance. This is what I have been taught. Okay, this is what mom and dad taught me the lesson on. This is what the Bible says on this topic. Okay, so we need to, yes, we protect our kids from these kind of things, but we also tell our kids about them. Now, you don't have to show your kid a sexualized movie to tell them we don't watch these kind of things, okay? So use your judgment on how you tell your kids about these things. You don't have to expose them to bad for them to know what bad is.
I had a guy on, Rashad, maybe a year ago or a couple months ago, I don't remember, but he saw RuPaul's drag show as like a 9-year-old or 10-year-old and saw men dressed as women, and from that moment on, just decided he was going to be trans as a young kid. Just that show, bro, influenced him in such a way that his entire life for the next, 10 years or whatever, 8 years it was, he's dressing like a woman, and a woman dressing like a little girl, and then getting to college wearing all this inappropriate clothing and doing all this crazy stuff just from a show.
The things like the Ouija board and the tarot cards and this crystal stuff that the New Agers are getting into, all that's demonic. And if you don't ever have anybody tell you, it can be a little bit of a leap to understand that yourself. Now, if you have a deep relationship with the Holy Spirit, and the Holy Spirit, you hear his voice all the time, and he goes, something ain't right here. Okay, that's good. But not every parent raises their child to that point. It is unfortunate, but hey, we all come to the Lord at different times too. All right, and we're all on different growth paths and everything. So you need to do your best to set your kid up for success. So anyway, I just wanted to get on here and share chunks of this video with you, and hopefully I've gotten all the clips in through right by now, because it's really, really relevant to the things I talk about here. How important it is to keep your kids away from bad movies, and how important it is to be mindful of what are in the movies that your kids watch, right? And if you don't watch the whole video, because it is long, I get it, at least watch this 15 minutes. Start about 19 minutes in, and then watch about 15 minutes that are really relevant to the time that they're talking about the movies and how they had quite an impact in his life. And then Isaiah even says about the impact that the horror movies had on his life as well. And I was just talking last week about how Isaiah Saldivar is one of the guys I recommend to watch on YouTube, right? I've been watching him for over a year. And one of the things I appreciate about him is how he has people on like this to talk about topics and stuff like that. And then here we are next week, and I'm like, oh man, I gotta get on and show clips of this and open up people's eyes, because there are so many people blinded to this. And even just like participation in Halloween as well. Oh, that was another thing. So he slips down to New Orleans during Halloween time and says something about like they're going around praying curses over people and pets and houses and just everything. And they're all led by these spirit guides, which are the demons, right? And he's going, well, should we ask for consent before we, like, this is kind of like personal? And they're like, no. We already have legal right with them putting out their decorations, with them dressing up, with them. That is their consent. They have consented to participate in Halloween. Therefore, we as the demons have the legal right to go forth and do whatever they're going to do to those people's lives. And so I found that very interesting.
We went around the Halloween doing spells and laying hands and going through different blocks and praying over the blocks and the buildings and everything. And I asked the spirit guides, why, don't we need permission? And the spirit guide said, they're participating in Halloween. That is the permission. They are participating in Halloween, so they gave us legal ground. That's legal ground for you guys to do whatever. You don't need to ask them for permission.
A lot of people play with Halloween, and you shouldn't, okay? And they'll say it has origins, it has whatever. Pastor Vlad Savchuk has a really good video about Halloween. The fact of the matter is, right now, it is it's used as a demonic holiday. So that's what it is. You want to celebrate it, you're celebrating a demonic holiday. There's just no way around it, okay? So don't participate in that kind of stuff. The Bible says something along the lines of like, have no fellowship with darkness, okay? And we are to be the light of the world. Light overpowers darkness. You don't mix. There's not a mixing. You're light or darkness. So have nothing to do with that evil, dark, nasty stuff. There is one other part that if you're just going to skip through the video, is definitely a place where you want to skip to, and that is his testimony where he's talking about being delivered, where he comes to meet Jesus. And so he was originally in the church and then had church hurt and then just fell out, right? And so he's at this point in his life where he is very suicidal and he believes the demons are going to kill him. The demons have taken over his body and he doesn't have control. His eyes are working, but that's about it, right? And so, and maybe his mouth, I forget. So then he calls on Jesus and he talks about how Jesus comes down and just sets him free from that demon. It's really neat.
And I said, Jesus, help me. And I saw a vision of like just these like bright clouds and a hand come out the clouds and went into my body and took out this dark demonic Baphomet looking, like it literally looked like Baphomet, like goat legs and everything. And he squeezed, and then that demon just exploded in his hands. And the moment it exploded in his hands, I was free.
Wow.
And my body just dropped. My body just said, whew. And bro, right there, something in my brain said, and I was like, oh my God, Tina, oh my God. And I started telling her, we're in witchcraft. We're doing witchcraft. This is evil. This is demonic. I'm like, oh, wow. I'm a sinner.
And that's triggered the whole chain reaction of where he is now, coming fully into Jesus, getting delivered from all the demonic stuff. And now, I guess now he apparently goes on Christian shows and talks about Jesus and has a book. And he was saying that he has a community of people that he's trying to help and teach how to get, set free from all the occult and all the witchcraft and all that kind of stuff. And anyway, super cool video. If you want to go watch the whole thing, I'll have a link in the description. I've probably already linked it at the top by now as well. But I just wanted to point that out and call attention to people. This is a dude that was there. Okay, this isn't somebody arguing on the internet that movies make a big deal or whatever. This is a dude that's like, the defining moment in my life that turned me to witchcraft is watching Harry Potter. And the reinforcing structure was all the shows on Disney Channel about witches and wizards. And his fascination with horror movies brought on some other stuff too. Okay, these are the things that you need to know as a parent. These are the things that a lot of people don't believe. But look, this is straight up his life. And he's like, this is why. Okay, so this is something that people need to know about. More people need to know about. So go ahead and share this video with somebody who needs to hear it. Okay, and share Isaiah's video with somebody who needs to watch that. If you like this video, please hit the like button. Go ahead and subscribe. I have Christian videos, I have parenting videos, and I review the new kid movies that come out in the movie theaters, okay? And I'm gonna tell you whether there's demonic stuff in it or not. I'm also gonna tell you about cursing and all the other stuff, LGBT and that kind of stuff, all the things that we as Christian parents care about, right? And then you can decide whether your kid's gonna go see, whether you are going to take your kid to go see that movie or not, okay? I also have a blog. You can check that out in the description. It has some older written movie reviews and then a couple things that are better off as written articles instead of a video. But if you prefer videos, that's okay, because I'm making new ones here too. So get subscribed. And until the next time, you have a blessed day.